Audacity. We have the audacity to record on Audacity.
Oh, I am recording on Audacity. Audaciously.
Do you hear an alarm going off?
It's my mom's phone.
Okay.
She's in the shower.
Not a problem.
So, sorry, everyone.
That's okay. I was just like, am I going slightly crazy because you didn't acknowledge it? And I was like, I don't understand what's happening. Am I the only one that can hear it? But I'm not, so that's okay.
Yeah, if it goes again, I'll stop it. It's 3:00, time for her eye drops.
Oh, okay. No problem, Suzanne. Listen, I mean, we live and die by alarms.
We live and die by alarms. No, I know. It's so funny. So now every time her alarm goes off and we're together, I'm like, oh, it's 3:00.
It's 3:00.
One of my students with CIE set her alarm for her birth control for 2:00 in the afternoon. And so like that entire semester, anytime her alarm went off, we'd be like, oh, it's 2. That's nice.
It's 2. That's like, I don't have so many friends that set alarms for birth control. Yeah. So yeah.
I know. I'm just like, I just took it with my pills. But a lot of people, like, they want to take it at a certain time or they don't get up every day at the same time. Like, I get it, but it was funny. I was just like, oh, it's 2:00. So now I know when it's 3:00.
It's because they're so picky. And then I discovered today in my pharma research that there was no long-term clinical trial of the pill at all. They studied 52 women for a year. And then they rushed it to the market.
Sure.
Everything's fine.
Sure. It's perfect.
Well, welcome to March.
Hi, friends and neighbors. Sure. I mean, sure.
That just, I
keep getting all these notifications. I know. Like, I just have gotten all of these notifications from NHL app. And I'm like, NHL app, what? And it's like a new month. And that's why. So it's like, February is star of the month. Welcome to gender equity. It's like all these, I'm like, stop. And then I'm like, oh, it's a new month. That's why
it's a new month.
It's so many notifications.
I have a lot of notifications these days, but it's because I keep forgetting how many various news apps for various countries I have downloaded until something like what is happening right now is happening.
And then like literally everyone wants to tell you about
like Ukraine. BBC needs to tell me about it. RTE needs to tell me about it.
Yeah.
Like everybody needs to tell me about it. So
everyone needs to tell you about Ukraine.
France 24 needs to tell me about it. So everybody. But good news is we're going to talk a little bit about it. Obviously, hello, welcome everybody to March 1st as we speak. The people of Ukraine are under attack from the Russian government, but they are not the only peoples around the world who are under attack from other governments. And we will cover that in a few minutes. But we're going to talk today about this big buzzy word called entrepreneurship that I can barely spell, despite having to use it every day for the better part of the last 5 years.
Every day. Yep.
Every day. There's a lot of copying and pasting in my life. And some of the kind of anecdotal data that we've started to gather on this generation that is leaving college, Gen Z, and how they feel about entrepreneurship and some of the messages and the narratives they're getting, and talk through those things. But first, of course, it's empathy exercise time.
Okay.
Here. Oh, sorry. I started on the fourth. Okay. There's the first.
I was like, wow, I have the first and fourth ones. I'm all ready. So exciting news for our friends in Colombia, our friends and neighbors, especially those who might have need of abortion services. Because last week, Colombia decriminalized abortion during the first 24 weeks of pregnancy. And this follows on from similar rulings in Mexico and Argentina. that is kind of showing a neat little wave of South American and Central American countries kind of, I don't know, recognizing that women might need access to those kinds of services. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple empathy exercise for us. During 2020, at least 26,000 unsafe abortions were carried out across Colombia, according to the local reproductive health care provider, Pro Familia. So we just need to provide safe access, because we say this every time, literally every time we talk about abortion around the world, we say this every time, along with all of our friends that we actually know a lot of people who work specifically on reproductive justice and abortion access. You know, banning abortion, criminalizing abortion does not stop it from happening. It never has. It just makes it unsafe.
Yeah, it just adds to the death toll.
All it does is make it unsafe. Women are still going to do it. Humans who get pregnant are still going to do it. So, yay, Colombia.
Great job. So my next two are about religious freedom, which is interesting. I don't talk about this kind of stuff all that often, but I want to shout out our friend Sophie Herscher, who drew this to my attention on LinkedIn, which is that the Hindu American Advocacy Center, which here we're going to, the Hindu American Foundation Advocacy Center, we're going to link to all this, is hoping that Americans of non-Hindu persuasion can also join them in advocating for Pakistan to release blasphemy prisoners. So really quickly, if you are not aware of this, there are many countries around the world, including Pakistan, that have blasphemy laws where you can be imprisoned, you can be killed for perceptions of blasphemy, of speaking against the prophet. And in Iran, that can often be also speaking against the government. It can be the same thing. Myanmar is the same way. So there's a lot of places around the world that there is not actually a freedom of conscience in the way that we enjoy. This link that we're going to do in the show notes here is a couple specifically that they're looking for advocacy. There are some names, but I want to here, last 2 weeks ago, there was a stoning of a mentally ill man because he allegedly committed blasphemy by describing the Quran. I don't even know what those words mean. Like, like he described it. He allegedly, he was a human person trying to talk about his God. Like,
what did he do? He called it a book. That's
going to be my guess.
What? That's not okay.
No, because it's not. It's to them, it's not okay, but it's also the Quran isn't a book, it's the living word. So the Quran is not equal to the Bible. The Quran is equal to Jesus.
Right. But you still can't describe it.
Evidently not. That's my guess. I could not find any more information on this particular case.
Interesting.
But regardless, I don't believe that people should be losing their lives for misspeaking or being mentally ill. So, Pakistan has formalized blasphemy laws, and they are harsh death penalties, and it's a major deal. So we would like to draw to, in terms of empathy, and understand that this is a part of life for so many people around the planet that we have no concept of. And also, if you are so led, there's a great way to talk to your U.S. senators and representatives right here on their handy advocacy form.
Woo, so easy.
So easy. Thanks, guys. The next one is my own personal faith. For anyone who has been in a conversation with me in the last 5 years, you will know that one of my soapboxes is that churches shouldn't have buildings, and that that are solo purpose buildings. It's like one of my new things.
Yeah, it is.
And not new, but I'm becoming increasingly convinced of it, that it is potentially even anti-biblical to have a building that you only use for yourself. So I was thrilled to get this from our friend Cheryl, saying that houses of faith are starting to build affordable housing on their properties. So there's lots and lots of churches around the world that hold massive amounts of property and land, especially the Catholic Church. And they're now going to be passing out grants to be able to build affordable housing on their properties. I love this. Next step, let's turn churches into community centers again, the way they used to be back in the day.
Okay, I had myself muted there because the alarm's going off again, but this is my empathy exercise, so I've got to do it. So apologies. Oh, it stopped. There we go. So this is an ongoing conversation Dr. Kristen and I have been having offline pretty much as soon as we started seeing the coverage of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And we've been going back and forth about it and having this larger discussion. And so when this article dropped into my inbox this morning, thanks to our friends at The Skim, I was really happy to have it as a resource to explain the conversation Kristen and I were having. And basically what this article, what we wanted to highlight with this article is to make everyone kind of conscious and thinking about the language that is used to talk about the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Ukrainian people, what the circumstances are, because we've got some evidence here that it's kind of it is a racist language in the way we talk about Ukraine versus other places and other conflicts. As Dr. Kristen mentioned at the start of our broadcast today, there are a lot of other conflicts going on currently in the world. But this is the most publicly aware one between white folks, predominantly white folks. So we just wanted to point out some of the language that is being used and to make you guys aware of it. The one that sticks out to me and that sticks out in this article with the clips is the classification of civilized and how what's happening in Ukraine is happening in a civilized country. This language was used by CBS News, BBC, France 24. And it's this dichotomy of, therefore, if it's happening in other places outside of Western civilization or Europe, then it is not civilized. And as we have been learning this week, as we're studying for our coverage of Iraq and the Colonizers' World Tour, that is the cradle of civilization. It's where it all started. So we wanted to highlight this and bring it up and just say, as an empathy exercise, that all refugees are human beings, regardless of where they come from, the color of their skin, their ethnicity, or their religion. And just be aware of this linguistic linguistic difference, and, shout it out if you see it.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to talk about conflict, and we're currently only really talking about it in one way. Yeah. So we're here at Abbey Research hoping to diversify the narrative a little bit. Speaking of things we'd like to diversify, is the perception that we are hearing from some college students. We just kind of want to talk this out. And we're not just hearing it from our college students, we're reading it in forums, and we're hearing it from some other college professionals and college professors, but that in the rise of the Great Resignation, that part of the reaction from Gen Z is that to get a 9-to-5 job might be like lame or selling out or in some way. And that all jobs that aren't for yourself are toxic and terrible. And the best way to be like a post-COVID person is to work for yourself and to live the entrepreneurial dream. So I have around 400 problems with that concept. And we thought we would chat it out. So
I know.
First of all, entrepreneurship is hard to spell and hard to live.
Yes, both of those things are true.
And it is, we've titled this, not everyone is an entrepreneur. Not everyone can be an entrepreneur. Not everyone should be an entrepreneur.
Not everyone should be an entrepreneur. Yeah.
It's true. There are people that are not hardwired to work for themselves, and that's okay.
It's okay. It's fine.
So yeah, we just have some concerns and we wanted to chat about it. So where are you coming from here?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's really interesting to look at this from a generational perspective. And we've spent a lot of time in the last couple years talking about the different generational perceptions of COVID and what's happening and how it's impacted the way we think about the workforce. We've been talking about generations almost the entirety of our existence at Abbey Research because we're just fascinated by them. And now through several avenues, we work with and mentor and teach a lot of members of Gen Z. So that's giving us some like anecdotal data. But for me, it's this idea that it's what the way you have to be. And anytime young people do this all the time, and anytime they do, where they're just like, no, this is the right way to be. No, this is how you have to live your life after college. This is the type of person you should be. Any other type of person is not right, is invalid. And it's that kind of black and whiteness of young people, but especially that happens in this generation, that I find particularly troubling about this myth. Because we've also seen this generation, you know, in a lot of their social media engagement be really black and white about social issues, social justice issues, discrimination, gender identity, all of that kind of stuff, where they're, you know, oh, you don't believe this, or oh, you don't agree with me on this, you are wrong. You are a bad person. And the kind of categorical blanket statements that then follow that black and white distinction is one of the things I find problematic about this. And the idea that also, I think the second thing that frustrates me about this myth is that there is one way to have a career when you're 22. Like, why are we saying, like, you're 22, this is what you have to do? You're 22. And like, you and I talk to college students all the time, and every time one of them is like, oh, well, you know, everyone's really concerned that I don't have a job yet, or they want to know what I want to do with the rest of my life. I'm like, can we just stop asking kids what they want to do with the rest of their lives?
Can we ask them what they want to do next?
Can we ask them what they want to do next? So I think those are my two biggest things. I see it as endemic of a larger issue in kind of Gen Z's perceptions of what is right and what is wrong. But I also see it as like a continuation of what generations before us started and have passed down, is this idea that like when you graduate college, you have to have decided what you want to do with your life.
And I see it as endemic of a bigger conversation within business right now, which is, and it's happening in a lot of places. And I actually just talked to Sid Meadows about this on Welcome to My World a couple of days ago, which is the kind of the demonization of corporate.
Yeah.
And the demonization of working for other people and not controlling your own schedule. And like a lot of attitude behind that is like, what is wrong with you? Are you not brave enough? Are you not bold enough? Are you not manifesting enough? Are you not like, what do you mean you can't leave your corporate job? Why don't you want it enough? And it's
so many value judgments. So many value
judgments. I mean, are there really toxic corporations? Yes. Would you like my alphabetical or geographical list? Are there really good people working at some of them? Yes. Like, are there really terrible toxic entrepreneurs? I'd like to introduce you to Tony Robbins. So like, it's what works for you in so many ways and what works for your family.
Yeah.
And the pressure I feel from people, because I've had this conversation now with, I don't know, 8 to 10 people in the last 2 months about, I feel like I need to get everything together. And then like, I need to know what I'm doing with my business. And then, or I don't want to celebrate this job that I got because my friends won't think it's cool because it's not an entrepreneur job. It's not an influencer. I'm not an influencer. I'm working in marketing for a company and they're going to think that's really lame. All of these various things. And I'm just like, okay, let's dial this back. Working is hard. Working for yourself is hard. Working for other people is hard. Everything is hard. Why are we trying to make this harder on each other?
Right.
By judging the decisions of other people. And there's a great difference between motivating somebody who needs a push to do the thing they've always wanted to do and creating a panic that someone should want something that they've never wanted.
And I think while you were talking about that, especially in terms of like, you know, that this is not just a Gen Z issue, that this is some of it is a Gen Z issue, but some of it's also this pandemic, the pandemicness of it all. I think there's been so many stories of people who have said that COVID forced them to reevaluate their job, their life. Like we are hearing this from a lot of folks who are changing career paths or quitting jobs, that they were like, it was such a significant disruption that it forced them to look at what they were doing and what they wanted to do. And that's great. But I think we've pendulum swung to like, if you are not evaluating everything, or if you have not realized that you need to shift your whole life perspective, like you're not doing something right. And I'm like, what if there are people that are happy in their jobs? COVID didn't really change that much of it, their level of happiness, and they're happy to stay where they are. But I think it's toxicified, just made up that word. It's like made more toxic by kind of the entrepreneur and influencer MLM Venn
let's
diagram.
get into the MLM of it all really quick. Let's go ahead and go.
You're like, wait, Aaron said MLMs. But like the Venn diagram of those things as well is like ratcheting up the pressure too.
And it's a very gendered thing, I should say this. So there's a lot of pressure, especially, I think, as I look at society, since the aughts, even more so, since MLMs really started going after Christian stay-at-home moms, that owning your own business, which MLMs are not, but promote themselves to be, is part of being a strong, fierce woman. And part of being a 21st century mom, and part of providing, and part of all of these kind of things. And so it's become even more toxic, this idea that you have to be this person to be right. And you and I hear from our mom friends that the competition among mom friends is insane. And we've tapped out of that. So like, we don't deal with it, but every once in a while we'll get stories and we look at each other. We're like, what the hell? Raising kids is hard. Why are you not all doing this together? Why are you judging each other? Like, what is happening?
I know. It just reminds me of like that scene in, like every time we get these stories, it reminds me of that scene in The Lion King where the hyenas like turn on
Scar. Like,
turn on Scar. Like, why are we turning? But it's hard. Why are we saying somebody's doing it wrong because they're not doing it the way we think everything
it's just very. And so, because MLMs, especially ones like LuLaRoe, have said that this makes you an entrepreneur. It does not. You do not own your own business, because businesses cannot fire you, and MLMs, owning your own business means that you cannot be fired.
Yeah.
Which is not the case from MLMs. And owning your own business also means you get to choose your own product lines, which you can not do in MLMs. Nope. So there's a couple other things there, but the messiness, the mushedness of those two concepts of being an independent consultant and being an entrepreneur means that I think way too many people think that they can be an entrepreneur and even should be. So there's this false equivalency of, I want to have more work-life balance. I want to have more control over my schedule.
Yeah.
Thus means I have to work for myself. And I would like to karate chop that equivalency, because it is not true.
Yeah. And I think that's one that this generation of young folks in particular is equating, this idea of corporate greed or large corporations. I mean, we are living through a time in which we have these massive corporations that aren't paying taxes, and it's really easy to demonize that. And then like pendulum swing, everything has to be like a dramatic swing that like,
like we did it too, Bezos, just about something else.
Yeah, like Bezos doesn't pay taxes. I can't work a 9-to-5 job. Like, y'all, that's not an equivalency. You just find what you want to do next and try it. And we really would just love for everyone to like let that be okay.
I have so many people who do not find like friends and loved ones who work a 9-to-5 job. They hate their job, but you know what they love? Their hobbies that their 9-to-5 lets them do.
Yeah.
And like, that's because the other piece of this is that we have sold the myth that work is where you get your fulfillment.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
And like, you don't have to. We have very fulfilling jobs. You and I love our job.
We do.
But we have both worked jobs that we did not love, and we got our fulfillment other places.
Yeah, and I love my job and I get so much fulfillment out of it, but I still do things outside of it that also give me fulfillment.
Yeah, like, mostly because we haven't figured out how to let you cross stitch for like YouTube purposes.
We set some boundaries. We'll set some boundaries.
We believe in boundaries.
We believe in boundaries, but like, yeah, I've had jobs where I've not been necessarily happy or fulfilled, but you need those outside interests. And like the other thing, and I had this conversation with Jay on the Instagram live yesterday for as I was teasing this idea that we were going to be talking about it. And I was like, you know what? A lot of people like health insurance.
I discovered today why we have health insurance attached to employers in the United States.
Amazing.
So it is in this book that I am reading, Gerald Posner's Pharma, Greed, Lies, and the Poisoning of America. So stay tuned for a much longer conversation in which I will explain why we have employer-based healthcare.
Amazing. Yeah. So for me, it's like I've taken a lot of jobs that weren't my passion so that I could have dental coverage.
Mm-hmm.
I've
become accustomed to eating.
Yeah. Yeah. I like those things. And maybe this is just like an age difference in that, you know, if young folks were watching this or are watching this, they can tell us what they think and they might be like, oh yeah, but you're old and I don't care about pensions. But you should, because you won't be able to enjoy being old if you don't have a pension.
What this fundamentally comes down to is that different people are different.
Yeah.
Different people have different employment goals.
Uh-huh.
And that no one is lame for like, I hate this idea of like selling out. We got this too, where like our friends.
For sure we did. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know, oh, you're going to be you're going to be a lawyer. Oh, now you're going to go work for corporate and make a ton of money.
Yeah.
Also, let's stop equating people who like money, who enjoy like eating and paying rent and would like a salary with Jeff Bezos.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, money's
you
not
can want to make 6 figures and not be Jeff Bezos. Those two things can be true.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm glad you brought that up because
you can also want to make money and not be evil.
Yeah. We get that too. And there's like a weird tangent of like being in academia and being outside academia. And like so many of our colleagues are in academia at like poverty level jobs and striking because their pensions are getting slashed. But there's this perception that it's like
noble.
Romantic.
Poverty is noble.
Yeah, that it's romantic to have these like, you know, aspirations for becoming a lecturer and that's how you can make change in the world. And I'm like, we can make change in a lot of ways. And you know what I like doing? Eating regularly.
I just saw that like at one university that's currently on strike, the pay is £790 a week.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would like to talk about how the living hell you raise a family on that. You don't.
I know you don't. Yeah. So like part of it is the perception that we have of certain types of work as well. But yeah, a huge part of it is that, you know, we have equated wanting to make enough money to live or live comfortably with like corporate greed.
Yeah. And there's a lot of colors of gray between those two things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can have a job and a stable job and not be Leonardo DiCaprio from Wolf of Wall Street. Like, there's not a direct, like, straight line.
Yeah, I can have a financial planner and not be the guys who created Enron. Like, I don't need to be Bernie Madoff, you know?
I think we might just be too pragmatic for this conversation, Kristen.
Entirely possible. So I think what we finally talked around, and thank you for joining our rant today, because I think we just had some things to get off our chest, but we do have a deep fear that this combining of worth and work in the way that we've done it will lead people to take jobs that they might feel a social pressure to take that is going to be really damaging for them in the long run. And this is caught up in a lot of the, if you want it enough, you'll make it happen. Sometimes that's not true. There are lots of parents that need to take jobs that they don't love because their kid needs health insurance or their kid needs the pension or things like that. Other choices don't mean, all of our choices shape our lives. Right. And we need to be realistic and pragmatic about some of those choices. All that being said, if you are miserable in your current employment situation and you want to get out, my gracious, please do it. Figure it out. This is the best time. There are so many resources. It's amazing. If you hate working for other people, like my dad should never work for another human being the rest of his life. Like, he is an entrepreneur to his core. I can go either way. Like, I can work for other people and I like working for myself. My brother needs to work for himself. This is a thing. So you just figure out what you want. I don't know. I feel like I spend every day quoting the Avett brothers. Decide what to be and go be it.
Decide what to be and go be it. In the immortal and wise words of the Avett brothers. Yeah. And I mean, we talk about this all the time when we talk about the culture of exhaustion and overwork that is American culture. And we talk all the time about how that was created. And I see this as a furthering of this, that we have glorified hustling and side hustles and working till we drop so much more than when really what we should be talking about is how every person is different and can have different goals, and how you need to balance work and rest.
I started my book blog after my PhD, and how quickly did people start asking me if I was going to monetize it?
Yeah.
So are you doing those? Are you writing all those book reviews for pay?
No.
It's my hobby.
I like writing book reviews.
I get paid in books and I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's this, like, the only valuable work, it's this weird thing where it's like the only valuable work is when we're making money, but we have to do it for ourselves. We can't do it for other people, because then that's like
selling out.
Yeah. But we never just talk about, like, you know what I really like? Working Monday to Friday so that on the weekends I can practice yoga and have a lie-in and go grocery shopping and see my friends. And like, I did so many different things this weekend, including just sitting with my cat and reading a book, afforded to me by the fact that I have a 9-to-5 gig.
Or like, I'm the entrepreneur in our relationship, and so I also spend some of the weekend working because I wanted to, and because my brain was awake and going, and it's what works best for me. So it's
because we're two different people.
We're two different people, and we have two different roles in our business
and two different needs.
Yep.
For what, periods of our week and our life look like. Yeah. So we love empathy. We love it so much. And empathy really just needs to be letting other folks be different and letting them choose their own path. And for the love of all that is holy, stop asking them what they want to do with the rest of their lives.
I think that's a great place to end.
I don't have anything else. That was just stop asking your kids this, please.
Especially if you're in Northern Ireland and they're 11 when they have to start answering that question. God love the 11 plus exam.
So stressful. They don't need extra stress. Y'all are living in the same world. It's real stressful.
It's real hard. I keep shocking people on podcasts by saying this, but it's really true. Being a human is really hard work.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that enough.
We are not. No, it is. My friend, a dear friend of our channel as well, Rosie McGurran, sent me a TikTok from a woman in Belfast this week was talking about the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and she was yelling at Vladimir Putin, and she was like, "We're just after COVID. We don't need this shit." And I was like, "Yes, we don't.
Yeah.
Don't pile more onto your kids. It's already a world on fire."
You know, my mom was like, "I already lived through like solid 30 years of thinking that Russia was going to push that button. I didn't need it again."
Yeah.
Like she was like, "I've been here before. I recognize that tree. I don't care for it."
I
like,
don't.
No.
I don't want to be
not
told
wrong.
to hide under desks again. I did that. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks so much. We've been there. Let's go somewhere different.
And we've been here before in terms of, passing moral judgments on people's career choices and values and what they want out of life. So we're just going to be real basic here and say, like, just don't.
Just don't.
Just don't. Decide what to be and go be it.
But what you should do is like this video wherever you're watching it. Please and thank you. If you're part of the replay crew, of course, we love you. We would love to know where you're watching in from. Podcast crew, shoot us a DM on the social of your choice and let us know where you're listening in from. We'd really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, do all of the things wherever you are. We're trying our darndest to get all of our numbers up so that more and more folks can join our conversation, because we feel so strongly about it. And we know a lot of you do too. Dr. Erin, we are together next week, and not together, but we are not traveling next week.
We are not traveling. We are not together next week. We don't know what we're talking about yet.
So as always, if you've got nominations.
Yeah, I don't know. We've got a couple ideas kicking around the old GDD tumble dryer. We haven't landed on any of them yet. And it's only Tuesday, so something else might happen.
Who knows? What I do know is that we are going to spend Thursday and Friday watching the first 3 episodes of The Dropout and getting that ready for you guys to start airing next week. So I was talking to Eleanor, who said she's been missing Schadenfreude TV, and I agree. So there's only so many times I can watch Firefest before I need a new person to judge.
I know.
And Elizabeth Holmes is going to give that to us.
It's going to be good. Yeah. And we also, today marks the start of our Colonizers World Tour. Book two. Chapter 1 in March is Global Women's Stories. And our video that dropped today, the first country we're talking about, is India. We have all I countries in the month of March. So if you have a particular interest in India, Ireland, Iceland, or Iraq, stick with us here on the YouTube. You subscribe and like the channel. You'll know when these videos drop. But yeah, we're having a ball. We're excited to have new content coming. New Colonizers World Tour, The Dropout, Bridgerton, all coming up. So we're excited.
You're not going to want to miss it.
No, you won't.
But we'll definitely, if we don't see you guys next week for the live, we'll see you wherever we see you across our channels. Thanks for joining us.
Take care, everybody.